Ladies and gentlemen, Afro Brandon is back, and I've got a banger of a video for you today. So a deranged and extremely entitled California senator named Alex Padilla got manhandled by law enforcement yesterday. This happened because he showed up out of nowhere at Kristi Noem's press conference, starts yelling and screaming and interrupting in the middle of it, charging towards the podium, trying to shove through law enforcement, and he gets put on his face and handcuffed. Every day at this point, the Democrat Party is just showing America that they're chaotic, unorderly, childish, and for the party who loves to preach about nobody is above the rule of law, they sure seem to hate when the rules apply to them. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel, but let me show you Alex Padilla charging law enforcement, trying to physically shove his way through them to get to the podium and subsequently getting put on the floor.
Guys, ready? And balancing. Sir, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your
I also wanted to
hands off.
how many of our ICE agents have been docked.
On the ground. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you let my hands go, I put them behind my back.
All right. Cool. Other hand. Lay flat. Lay flat.
Other hand, sir. Other hand.
Okay, so we all learn when we're 5 years old. Raise your hand if you have a question. Don't interrupt people, it's rude. But apparently a sitting US senator seemingly never learned this etiquette. It shows the entitled, arrogant, self-obsessed nature of Democrats, where they think their wants and their needs are a royal decree that everybody else must adhere to. Let's get the facts straight. This press conference was happening in Los Angeles, which is extremely volatile right now. This pretentious senator thinks he's Michael Jackson, and everybody ought to know his face. He shows up to a press conference that he's not even supposed to be there for, and he doesn't like what he's hearing, so he starts interrupting and shouting and yelling and getting up and physically charging the podium that the director of Homeland Security is at. And when law enforcement obviously stops him because who the hell is this guy in plain clothes? Is he a possible threat? He starts pushing and shoving the law enforcement, demanding that they get their hands off of him. And at this point, he starts saying, "I'm Senator Alex Padilla." Well, from law enforcement's perspective, if you've already started engaging in such an undignified way, they're probably looking at you like you're an unhinged lunatic. So now when you're saying that you're a senator, they have every reason not to believe you. What did you think they were going to do? Let go of you and get on the ground and kiss your feet? And then now, because he's physically fighting with law enforcement, they drag him outside of the room and detain him. And in his mind, he did nothing wrong, and we'll hear from him a little bit later. But it's this kind of delusional mindset from the left, where they think they can do whatever they want, act in whatever way they want, and no one has a right to do anything about it. It's that same mindset that led them to being so offended that the National Guard was called in to stop them from rioting in Los Angeles. How dare you send the National Guard to stop us? But what makes all of this even more ironic is here's Senator Alex Padilla talking about how nobody is above the law when it comes to Donald Trump.
Donald Trump, now the former president, the defeated president, as President Biden refers to him, no one is above the law, not even him. So we will leave it to law enforcement officials, investigators, the Department of Justice, and everybody in between to pursue the facts and do what's proper. Accountability needs to be there. Nobody is above the law.
If this is how the Department of Homeland Security responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing to farm workers, to cooks, to day laborers out in the Los Angeles community and throughout California and throughout the country.
I mean, rules for thee and rules for me. This kind of elitist behavior was clear as day during COVID, where Gavin Newsom was arresting people who were on an empty beach by themselves, forcing everybody to wear 6 masks over their face, but was caught at his vineyard hosting a party and nobody was masked up. Same for Obama. They love to ignore that the entire Democrat platform is about special privilege for Democrats. Where do you think they get the mindset of, you can't misgender me, you have to distort all of reality and lie because it'll hurt my feelings if you don't? Now let's hear from the senator himself. What went down from his perspective?
Somebody from the FBI, I've gone through a screening. This is a federal building. And so tell them, let's go listen to the press conference. They escort me over to that room. And I'm sitting in the back of the room behind the cameras, behind the reporters, listening. And at one point, it was just too much to take. Not the first, but the second attack on the political leadership of California and this notion that Donald Trump and Kristi Noem had to come in and rescue the people of Los Angeles from Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass. It was too much. And so I spoke up. I introduced myself. And said I had a question. Look, they said I wasn't wearing my pen. My polo says United States Senate. There was no threat. There was no lunging. I raised my voice to ask a question, and it took, maybe half a second.
Hold on, let me get this straight. A sitting U.S. senator didn't like what she was saying. He just could not take it. So in his mind, he was justified to get up, yell, interrupt, charge the podium, because I'm a senator and I have a question. Not only is that extremely entitled and childish, and no reasonable person supports that excuse, but it exposes that Democrats truly don't believe in freedom of speech. Yeah, you're a senator, but she's also the director of Homeland Security. She's a cabinet secretary, and you don't like what she's saying, so you want to silence her, so you want to stop it. I mean, Democrats just prove every day they are the true fascists. I mean, there's a million ways as a senator you could have asked this question to Kristi Noem, but you chose the one way that makes you look like an unhinged lunatic and strips you of any sympathy. Now let's hear from Kristi Noem about the situation, because Mr. Alex Padilla left out a pretty important detail here.
What I would say is we were conducting a press conference to update everyone on the enforcement actions that are ongoing to bring peace to the city of Los Angeles. And this man burst into the room, started lunging towards the podium, interrupting me and elevating his voice, and was stopped, did not identify himself, and was removed from the room. So as soon as he identified himself, appropriate actions were taken. But I would say that, I had a conversation with the senator after this. We sat down for 10 to 15 minutes and talked about the fact that nobody knew who he was. He didn't say who he was, that until he was already had been lunging forward and people were trying to detain him for quite a period of time, and that this, we're leaders, we're public servants. And if he had requested a meeting, I would have loved to have sat down and had a conversation with him. That coming into a press conference like this is political theater. It's wrong, and it does a disservice to this country and the people who live here. So we sat down, had a conversation. We probably disagree on 90% of the topics, but we agreed to exchange phone numbers. We'll continue to talk and share information, and I think that's the way it should be in this country. I wish he would have acted that way in the beginning instead of creating a scene like this.
So she met with you afterwards for 15 minutes and exchanged phone numbers. But he doesn't include that because he wants to create the narrative that the Trump authoritarian regime is throwing senators on the floor for just asking questions and won't let us do our job or conduct oversight. He just wanted to create a moment, because that's what Californians do. It's Hollywood. It's all about theatrics. Except this time, his actions were so unjustified that not even CNN can defend what he did. Take a look.
Well, it's easy to think about this as one incident, but actually from a law enforcement perspective, we're really looking at three separate incidents that happened within a short period of time. First, you have the DHS secretary who is addressing the press. This was not a Q&A period, and she's interrupted. She's interrupted by someone who is speaking very loudly, and so her security detail confronts what we obviously now know to be the senator, and at that point, he is now going to be escorted out. You can't interrupt something like that that's already in progress without having those consequences. But the second incident, in my view, happens the moment as officers are trying to lead him out. He then turns and walks back towards, kind of into those agents. At that point, from a security detail perspective, we're taking this person out against their will. We've asked the person, and again, this is all happening very quickly, but the moment he then turns into them, they realize this is not someone who is going to comply.
Again, no one finds this reasonable. It was a desperate attempt to create a moment that failed. It blew up in your face. You got thrown on the ground and cuffed, and nobody feels sorry for you. Because obviously the radical Trump deranged left, they love it, and they're running with the narrative that this all happened because a senator simply wanted to ask a question. They're doing the exact same thing that happened with the LA riots. Everybody is seeing the exact same video. We're all seeing how this went down. We all know this didn't happen because a Democrat senator wanted to ask a question. They still haven't realized that one of the key reasons they lost in 2024 is because the American people were sick of Democrats constantly lying about things that are blatantly obvious. They don't get that people feel insulted when they see videos of cars on fire, of fireworks being shot at law enforcement, and then elected officials go on TV and say, these protests are under control, they're completely peaceful. Just like they're fed up with senators engaging in these performative stunts and then going on TV and creating an imaginary scenario of what happened to try to push a narrative that Donald Trump's a fascist. It's old. If any regular person, or for that matter, any person with the clearance to get into a federal building, did exactly what he did, step by step, action for action, they would most likely be in jail right now. The only reason he's not behind bars right now is because he is a senator. Middle of the road Americans, old Democrats who voted for Trump, will see what happened, then hear his explanation, and conclude that this man is lying. His attempt to try to bring more people back to the Democrat Party and away for Trump is a massive failure because he was out of control. The only people running with this Trump bad, Senator good narrative are people like Liz Warren, Pocahontas. Let's hear what she has to say.
When Senator Padilla gets pushed, shoved, thrown to the handcuffed, because he is asking questions, because he is engaging in the very oversight that senators are supposed to engage in, then what we're really talking about here is a Trump administration that just wants to shut down the ordinary functions of government. Look, I do a lot of oversight myself. I ask a lot of questions because that's how it works in a democracy. We use our words to hold people accountable. We don't use our fists, we don't shove, we don't try to knock people down. We use our words. That's what oversight is all about. And that's what I want to go to the floor of the Senate to talk about. I think it is time for every senator, every member of Congress, Democrat or Republican, to stand up and say what Donald Trump has done is wrong.
I mean, these people, man. But it's not surprising that everything they say is delusional, isn't based in reality, is the complete opposite of what's true. Well, I mean, when you're stripping away natural law and biological reality, every other aspect of reality can be morphed into whatever you want it to be. They don't understand that it's not 2021 anymore. They could unapologetically lie then because they had control of every arm of every institution, and everything could work in a coordinated effort to silence and suppress you, make you look like a conspiracy theorist, make you look like a lunatic. They would say on 100 different news shows that up is down and left is right, and tell you about all the studies by the experts to reinforce that. And they're still engaged in that playbook, except for they don't have control of the institutions, so they don't have a mass-scale gaslighting campaign to back up their lies. Here is another angle of the altercation, clearly showing him just screaming and shouting and interrupting, walking towards the podium like he wants to attack Kristi Noem, pushing through law enforcement, and then only then, when he's getting his ass dragged up out of there, does he decide to announce that he's Senator Alex Padilla.
Madam Secretary, I want to know why you insist on exaggerating
every single person that has been able to do this.
Hands up, hands up.
Also, I want to talk.
I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the Secretary.
So there, it's clear as day. But the story he wants to tell is that he just peacefully walked into the room. He raised his hand like a good, polite boy, said, "I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I want to ask a question." And 6 security guards just swarm him, grab him, beat him up, kick him, drag him out, handcuff him, throw him in a gulag. That's the narrative that the radical left is trying to push. They still don't understand one of the main reasons Trump won was because Americans were tired of this disorderly conduct. Democrats acting like spoiled brats simply because they're Democrats, while also demanding everybody is held to the exact same standard of legal enforcement. And a failed Democrat gotcha I've been seeing circulating on X is, well, what law did he break? None. And that's why he's not arrested. But again, because it doesn't suit Democrats, they're intentionally misunderstanding what that phrase means. It means equal treatment for everybody. Nobody is above the rules. And they know, just like Senator Alex Padilla knows, that if anybody tried doing what he did, they would have all been met in the exact same way. So instead of complaining and whining like a baby who didn't get his way, he should be thrilled that those security guards are promoting equality. It would be racist if they treated him differently than they would treat somebody else. Isn't that what Democrats think? Now, the last thing I'm going to show you is Stephen A. Smith saying what everybody was thinking when this video emerged and absolutely cooking this senator.
Here you have this senator, Alex Padilla. Can Christy Noem speak? Could you have waited till she finished to ask your questions? To shout your questions? You are a senator, right? You couldn't wait? So that was just you out of control because you were just losing it up. You, a United States senator, couldn't compose yourself and let the head of Homeland Security finish her thoughts before you asked the question. Couldn't do that, huh? Couldn't do it, huh?
The Democrats are acting like rebellious teenagers, and they think the American people are going to support that kind of behavior coming from elected officials. They're delusional. They're crazy. In their minds, they're these superheroes. They're these liberators. They're these saviors. They think they're fighting Nazism, and they think everybody sees them the same way they see themselves. They think people are going to be throwing roses at their feet, showering them with praise. For what? Not having any self-control? They look grossly unserious. Americans heard that Donald Trump is Hitler, Donald Trump is a Nazi rhetoric for like 8 years now, and they still voted for him. The Democrats won't accept. People just don't believe you. They know it's not true. So you trying to get a moment where you can show people, oh my God, look what they're doing to senators. They'll do this to you too. People aren't stupid. They realize the only reason that happened to you is because you were conducting yourself in such a way that warranted that response. You were quite literally pushing and shoving your way through federal security guards who don't know you, who've never seen you. All they're judging you by is the way you're behaving in that moment, which is unhinged, and you're rushing the podium where the director of Homeland Security is. They have an obligation to protect her. And then you expect because in the middle of it you say that you're a senator, they're going to stop. Well, sorry, pal, when you act like that, they don't believe you. They don't even understand the more that they engage in this reckless kind of action, the more it makes people support Donald Trump in this firm-handed approach of restoring some sense of order to this society. The last 4 years, the Democrats created a culture where the rule of law was optional, where Democrat superiority reigned supreme and they could do whatever they want. And the fact that they don't understand those days are in the past is exactly why they'll keep doing stuff like this and continue getting more and more unpopular. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video and the return of Afro Brandon, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.